All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Q&A. This is episode, 278 or something like that? How y'all doing? Welcome back. It is Tuesday, November 12th, and we're here every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, talking about coffee, answering questions about coffee. So if you have a question about coffee, drop them in the comments, let me know, and then we will come to them at some point. All right, so today I thought we would talk about, since we got the espresso machine running, we talk a little bit more about espresso and a drink that's really one of my favorites. We talked a little bit about this drink called the Honey Macchiato several episodes ago, and the Honey Macchiato is a great, fun drink, but I thought let's go back to the origins of the drink. Let's go back to the center of that drink, back to the macchiato. And the macchiato, of course, has caramel, has vanilla, and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm just kidding. So those of you who are in the United States and probably outside the United States know that if you go to places like Starbucks, they have something called the caramel macchiato. How in the world Howard Schultz, who went to Seattle, who went to Italy from Seattle, experienced true Italian espresso in the true, authentic Italian way, came back to the United States to create something called the caramel macchiato, is beyond me. Maybe he talks about in his book, I don't know, but it's very strange in my mind. Maku, how are you doing today? Mom as well, and Free Range Humans with us. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Welcome. And so somewhere along the way, it became this crazy drink, but we're going to go back to the origins of it, right? We're going to go back to the origins. And what is a macchiato? Macchiato means to mark in Italian. So basically, the idea is that you're taking your espresso and you're actually just going to take a dollop of foam to add to your espresso, and that's it. That's truly the traditional way, is to do it in that way. So you've got the heaviness, you've got the body, you've got the bitterness of the regular espresso with just a little bit of offset from some steamed milk. Well, milk foam, not steamed milk. Now, when I started in the business in 2002, 2003, and I learned espresso in 2003, I learned to make what was called the macchiato, but more of a Seattle style. More of what was called the Seattle. Well, we call it macchiato. There was no real differentiation, but as time would go by, we would call it, I would learn to differentiate as a Seattle style macchiato, because it was a little bit different than the espresso, the Italian. So the Italian version, of course, like I said, it's got just espresso with a little bit of foam. So all those bitterness, all that heaviness, all of that intensity that Americans aren't really used to, we're used to brewed coffee, so it's a little bit softer. It's a little bit more palatable, not so intense. Even with the dollop of the milk foam, it was a little bit too much. Still a little bit too much. So people in Seattle somehow started making it with a little bit of milk as well. So steaming the milk, foaming the milk, getting that texture of the milk, getting that sweetness of the milk, which kind of offset that intensity of the espresso, but in a really nice way. Peter, good morning to you. Aloha as well. And so we're going to go through those two options today. And let's do that. Let's start off. We're going to go to the machine and let's go and, I keep thinking that we have an automatic switcher, but we don't. We have me to switch. So we've got our machine ready. As always, I cleaned it up after the show yesterday, and I didn't touch it. I haven't used it since. So we're going to, again, grind a little bit through the coffee. And we're going to get our test shot going. Can you guys see that? Not too well. Let me pull that forward some. So we've got, here's our dosage. As you can see, it's heavier dosage on this side, lower dosage on this side. So basically, we're just going to push it over. I'm just pushing it around, just trying to get it to fill in the gaps. Mind the gaps and fill it all in. Then we're going to press it all down, make sure that it's all level, right? And now tamp with a twist, and hopefully that'll give us some nice results. All All right, there we go. Let's put it in. Probably about the same amount of dosage we're doing yesterday because it's not so difficult to insert. Sometimes if I put a lot of coffee, it becomes difficult to place in the group head. But today, not bad. Not bad, not bad. Let that run because I'm getting distracted. Okay, let's have a look at this. Fairly nice, a little bit lighter, I think, than yesterday. Peter says, a Macchiato. Dylan, good morning to you as well. See a little bit of bubbles there. See these, a little bit of bubbles that are the edge. Like if I was serving this in the cafe, I would want to knock those out, right? I like to not have bubbles in the crema, but a little bit of that Milky Way galaxy going on there in the center, but it doesn't look too bad. Let's see. Good body, sweetness, bitterness. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. Gosh, that's amazing. Sometimes I'm surprising myself. Okay, let's have a look at our puck. So good, clean, dry, smooth, not too wet, good compaction, nice and tight. Knocks out whole and no real residual. A little bit of residuals there, but nothing really heavy. So that's good. We'll rinse it out a little bit. And let's do it again. But this time we're going to get our milk ready. So like in yesterday, we're going back to our daily crisis. I don't know why they call it it's called daily crisis, not dairy crisis. I would have thought dairy crisis would have been a little bit more of a play on words. Cream line whole milk, $4 a half gallon. Which, to be honest with you, I don't know if that's expensive. To me, that seems perfectly reasonable. It may be. I think, a gallon is $5, so it's almost the cost of a gallon. So I guess that's expensive. Okay, so now we're just going to take a little bit of this. In this particular case, we're just going to put a little bit. We just got a little bit of milk in there, which actually, this kind of milk is more difficult to deal with than your other types of milks, right? Like or other drinks, I say, because you're dealing with such a small quantity of milk that it's a lot harder to control and to get to. It's harder to control because, first of all, you've got the power of the espresso machine, the steam one, that really needs a certain amount of liquid to control itself, meaning that it's coming out ideally we would like to give it full power. I want full power to get the most out of it. And you're getting it's since there's so little volume comparatively, it tends to slosh around more and be hard to control. So there are ways that sometimes you may give it a little bit of power, but that's fine. Don't always have. Ideally, you want full power so you get that full action so you can roll the milk. But and then other times you can use other types of tips on your steam one to control the violence of the steam. So, for example, on our old 3-group Linea, we would have a regular 4-hole steam tip on the right steam one. On the left steam one, we put on a small 2-hole jet orifice, right, that had heavy restrictions. So, even if you were running at full power, it's not giving you the full power of the machine. It's being very restricted. So you could do really, really tiny quantities and be able to have enough control over it so that it wouldn't blow up in your face. Okay, so we'll do another shot, and we're going to go over the marked type of macchiato. Okay, let's go back here. So we got our portafilter. Make sure the basket's all clean. And if you have questions as we go along, feel free to drop them in the comments. Looks like I'm starting to run out of coffee in the hopper. I'm just grooming that a little bit. Okay, I can feel that's just slightly more coffee than the last one inside the basket. Okay, once this gets rolling, then we're going to start to steam the milk. Okay, that's rolling. Flush out the group head. The steam one. Look at that. Looking pretty good. We're going to stop it right about there. Now start to steam. Now, temperature-wise, you don't necessarily have to worry so much with the milk on this one because we're not really using this as a major component to the beverage. It's just an additive. But let's go have a look at it. Okay, so we've got our espresso. Really, again, nice looking shot. I like that. A little bit of bubbles. We're going to tap those out, right? Now here, I'm just kind of I'm not really stirring because I want the separation between the milk and the foam to happen, right? Because we just want to use the foam, right? So we're letting the separation happen. That's why I haven't really been slushing. I'm going to tap it a little bit because there are some bubbling that I can see. So I just want to tap out the bubbles. Okay, now we're going to take our bar spoon and we're going to get the dollop of the foam. And we're going to place that right on top. Gosh, I could have done that a little bit nicer. And there it is. Espresso macchiato in the traditional manner. I'm going to take a photo of that because maybe I can post this to my Instagram and show people that I do know how to make coffee still. All right, so there it is. Macchiato in the traditional Italian manner. So it's just meant to be a little bit of cream to offset the bitterness and intensity of the espresso. And you don't really get a lot of it because look at this. This is the remnant from my first sip. Very little milk compared to the espresso. As I tilted the glass, the espresso is what flowed underneath it more. In that one, I totally scooped up the whole foam. Anton says, I did the active melting. Ooh, excellent. I think it was not as well suited as the drink you use. I think it perhaps, there's going to be some factors that are very different, right, between your Actimel and my Mael Biofeel. First of all, there's the Actimel and Mael, right? Are they similar enough, right? Because even though Yakult and Mael may be very similar, maybe they're not exactly the same. I don't drink them enough to recall the differences or the nuances between the two. So there could be that. And then also it's going to depend on the type of espresso you're using, right? Because different espresso, different coffee, different components in the blend, different roast profiles are going to pair differently with different ingredients. Right? Sometimes they're going to be better than others, depending on a whole bunch of factors. So part of the journey of crafting a drink is taking all those things into consideration, right? Like if we had perhaps some of the ingredients that the drinks we may have tried in the past where they didn't go quite well together because let's say our Espresso 99 is a very heavily bodied, chocolatey, nutty finish, a little bit of fruitiness. That's our intention with the roast profile, with the brew profile. It may not go as well with certain ingredients as perhaps, let's say, someone that makes a very high note bright coffee, right? So these are some of the things as you explore drink development, these are all factors you may have to play with, which is just part of it. It's just part of it. Free Range says, I can't find your espresso machine for sale anywhere. Oh, really? I thought it was available on First Line. I bought it from a company called First Line. Let's see, First Line. Let me see if they still have it. Oh, maybe they don't carry it anymore. I'm looking here at the First Line's website. This is the company where I bought First Line equipment. But evidently they don't. They don't have, but here's the thing. So, you don't necessarily have to buy my particular espresso machine. Like, let's say this one, I don't know what model that is, but this is also E61 group head. You can see the E61 group head with the valve here. And it's a little bit fancier because it looks more the old school 1960s era style of like valve systems. They have, and here's the thing, there's so many espresso machines that are available for what? Why are we starting off with commercial machines? Let's go to regular machines for regular people. Okay, that's not how they sorts it. Okay, let's just see what they have here. Okay, these are expensive. There was someone in the comments. Was it yesterday's comments, or was it on one of on the video? I saw on a video somewhere I saw yesterday that someone was commenting on that there was there's a new machine. Somebody said there was a machine that was available for $500 that's supposed to be nice. Like I said yesterday, I'm probably not the right person. I'm not the right person to rely upon for home recommendations for espresso machines because I really don't follow a lot of that. Like if you go to Hoon and you go to Omniel and you go to all the rest of the guys that make YouTube videos that are really, those guys are really focused on equipment for the enthusiast. I'm not so much focused on that. I'm more focused on coffee as experience, coffee as hedonism, right? So I don't know what all the latest and greatest gear is out there. And, I think some of those guys, they get the equipment sent to them. I get nothing sent to me. I don't really want people to send me stuff because then I might be obligated to like say something, clever for in their favor when it may not be so clever, right? But I think also a lot of the guys in the group here, or a lot of people in the group here will be great sources of information for you to like at least start to explore some of those machines. Peter says the Perfetto. I think that's the one that someone mentioned yesterday that was about $500. Is that right? But Anton says, I will gladly finish the rest of that. Yeah, it's always a fun drink. It's a fun drink. Anton says, of course I couldn't hear your reply because we're sudden ad. Oh, sorry. Oh, at least I know that they're putting ads. I wonder how long do your ads last when you get them? Like, are you forced to stay for 30 seconds with the ad, or can you click away? I'm curious. I don't know when YouTube is actually putting the ads on. I'm just babbling away here as though nothing's changing. And Anton says for you, free range, I think for home use and that price range, you do have better options nowadays. One day I'll get the Maro espresso machine. It's expensive, but I think it's the machine of the future. And then Marco says the $500 machine was a Turin Legato. Okay, that's what it was. I don't know much about. Again, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know too much about those different machines. Like for me, even going to the SCA Expo and seeing all the new enthusiast level products, it's such an exploration. Like I'm like, oh, look at this. This is kind of fun to see. There's the video on the channel from that grinder company. The one that's all like $2,000. It's all super cool looking. You're like, oh, that looks pretty awesome. Like it's all a discovery for me. It's like, oh, do an episode on the Vienna Einspanner coffee. Is that right? Einspanner? Vienna Einspanner. I'm going to have to look it up. Oh, I guess it's from Austria, right? Einspanner. You know what? What is Vienna Einspanner? Maybe I can ask. A friend of mine is coming from Vienna at some point in time. I don't know if he's been here already, or maybe normally he calls me when he's coming. So, but he should have. I thought he was going to come last month. Vienna Einspanner. Oh, here we go. 2 shots of espresso, 1 tablespoon brown sugar. Okay. Oh, okay. So that is one place that I've always wanted to go, is to Vienna. Like, ever since I watched the movie back in the 1980s, Amadeus, right, about Mozart, I was like, city of musicians. I would love to be there. I would love to go. And then I found out later in life that there is a whole coffee scene there. I'm like, maybe I'll go there. Maybe I'll go there on a trip. Free Range says, your machine looked interesting. It was E61 with a digital interface. Yeah. So it's, and I like I said, this is a 20-year-old machine. So I'm sure there are people that have machines that are similar to this that may be worth considering. But here's the thing. So let's look at this for a second. So this thing, as you can see, has the digital, the dosing feature, right? To be quite honest with you, I never use this. I never use it. My La Marzocco's, the 3 group, and I think the 2 group and 3 group have similar dosing meter, electronic dosing on it. I never use them. We don't even teach our baristas how to use these things. I've only started teaching baristas how to use it because, depending on the situation, for our clients, like one of our clients, they have a machine that has, electronic dosing, and we programmed the buttons to do certain things so that, it's kind of no-brainer that no matter what they press, it'll be hard for them to muck it up. But these, while they have different icons, right? You can see I can't really, can I zoom in more? Let me see. Oh, perfect. You can see there's different icons here. There's a brew icon, manual brew, and then there is hot water. Oh, making a mess. Great. And then there are 4 different brew buttons, and this looks like a short espresso, long espresso, short double shot, long double shot. These can be programmed to dispense so much water for those purposes, or you can make them programmed to dispense anything that you want. Oh, I don't even know how much it's dispensing. Like, again, I never use them. I only brew manually. Oh, and I guess I brew using this switch, right? Because there is no manual override. But I got it, and here's why I got it. Okay, because I think it looks cool. I thought it looks cool, especially back 20 years ago. I was like, okay, that looks cool. It looks nicer. It looks like it's all high tech. So that's why I bought it. But am I using the features of this practically? Not at all. I don't use it at all. It costs more to have this, and I bought it because I thought it looked cool. That's it. That's totally it. There's no practical use for these buttons. I don't use them. I use them not at all. I can't stress that enough. I don't use them at all. It's really terrible. But because I learned how to make espresso, because I'm very much about making espresso manually. Like, we want to make espresso, and everything is about the feel of the espresso, right? We're watching the flow. We're not really watching necessarily for volume, right? These buttons are programmed. You can program them to deliver a certain amount of volume because there's a flow meter inside. But we're looking, because things will change. Things will happen when you're making espresso that 1.5 ounces of fluid water does not always equal 1.5 ounces of fluid water in actual practice, right? 1.5 ounces may be too much water, and you're going to get a watery, terrible shot if you just let it run. So that's why we've always taught our baristas to do everything manually and visually. And before, it used to be a very long process. This last round of training that I did with these new baristas, I kind of jumped them pretty far up the scale as far as technique, much faster than I would have done my own baristas, because we needed to get them up to speed in a very short amount of time. And I think they're doing pretty well. Like, when I see them on the weekends, or when I go down to the place, to the coffee shop, they seem to be doing fairly well. So hopefully. But the difference there is that I'm not the one. I mean, it's for a client, so it's their standards, not mine. So, I mean, I teach them what I can teach them. I share the knowledge with them, but it's up for them to actually implement, execute, and to maintain, right? Peter says, or Vietnamese salted coffee. Ooh, salted coffee. Maybe with some salted egg. It was like a 5 to 10 second ad. Okay. And then Peter also says they get advertising every now and then. And yeah, there are other E61 group heads with the PID control. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, I don't have any PID controlling on this one. All my other machines, like the commercial machines, all have some form of PID control. Honestly, I don't know if you really need PID control on a home machine. And here's what I'm thinking, right? Like, I've never done this. I thought about it, but then it's like, honestly, I'm just lazy. Plus, a PID controller on a heat exchange machine, I don't think really gives you anything, right? Because the idea of the heat exchange is that you have a main boiler, a single boiler that is heated to the pressure that you need, about 1 to 1.5 bars of atmospheric pressure, which is about 240 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's higher than boiling because it's under pressure. And that pressure is needed to deliver the steam that you need to make the milk. The boilers are designed in a way so that the water for the group head runs through a tube that goes through the boiler, right? It goes through the boiler and into the group head. And as long as that water is flowing, they've calculated whatever distance to calculate, that as long as the water is flowing, that water is then now heated to about 200 degrees so that it brews. Now, the problem with the heat exchange machine is as it sits, once you stop the flow, the water line sits and then it equalizes to the temperature of the boiler, because there's no way, it does, right? It's transferring heat, so it's going to equalize. And then when you start to flow, you'll get that sputtering out of the group head because now you're getting boiling water. So that's why you have to flush through it. Now, with PID control, let's say this steam boiler fluctuates between 235 to 247 Fahrenheit as it cycles, right? There's a thermostatic pressure in there that's measuring, and it turns the heater on, it turns the heater off, turn the on, off, on, off, on, off. I don't know if you really need to have precise control of your temperature for a heat exchange boiler, because it's already hot enough. And am I that worried about maintaining 242.5 for steam pressure? As long as it's above, 230, 235, 5, I don't know, I'm not too worried about it. And there's no way to regulate that temperature you could regulate the temperature down to 200, to 204 or something like that for your brewing and PID that. But the design of the machine, that if you're running your water, if your boiler is to 204 and your water is running through it, you're probably not going to get that temperature water, because the flow rate and the tubing length is designed for a certain temperature range, and the transference of that heat to the water as it's coming through. And if that water, if the boiler temperature is much lower, it's going to transfer the heat, but it's not going to transfer it probably to the level that we need, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my mind, but it may not make sense in really. Peter says Jay wants to do my coffee manual, but doesn't like his hand. Yes, that's so true. That's so true, man. I tell you. Yeah, we want to do manual espresso. We don't want to grind manually. Like, God, no. Good Lord. Imagine if you had to grind for espresso. That'd be misery. Misery. There's a reason why humans developed electric grinders. There's a reason we developed electric tools. Because we don't want to do it by hand. Like these guys with their mortise and tenons are cutting them. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Just use the domino. No, just kidding. Anyway, so, but I think that perhaps you may get benefit if you're in a single group machine with PID, or in a multi-boiler machine, because then you now have you have boilers that are dedicated just for the brew temperature. And then you may get that. But here's the other side of it, right? Like, if you're a home enthusiast and you are turning on your machine and you're heating it up for 15 minutes, hour, 2 hours, and then you're pulling a shot and then you're turning it off and going away. Does that, I don't know if that's a cost-effective measure to put PID, to retrofit a machine with PID, because what does PID do? PID is about trying to maintain, and at least in the commercial environment, right? Like when I first got into business, that's when PID was, people were just starting to add PID machine controllers to their machines. Like my mentor is one of the first ones that put them in La Marzocco, and then David Schomer was also like, had been playing around with on his machines. And so the idea is that you want to create a stable temperature environment for your brew water, right? So what happens with the pressure stats is that, let's say this is the line of like ideal brew temperature. Well, you'd heat the water up, it turns the heater on, it goes above that, turns the heater off. Then after a while, it cascades down, turn the heater on, turns the heater off, turns the heater on. So you've got this large sine wave, right, of temperature swings. And they could be 5 to 10 degrees on both ends, which can impact the quality of your espresso. So the idea was to use this PID controller and its fuzzy logic. So you tell it you want it to be 2 or 1.5. Like we used to set our machines at 2 or 1.5. And that will also depend on where you put the temperature probe, right? In the La Marzocco linea, this is the side view, right? You've got the brew boiler, and then you've got the group head, the saturated group head that comes off the neck that's up here. This is where your brew water, your brew water is pulled in from the bottom, from the main chamber, while the group head is saturated, right? The tube actually goes into the center of your boiler, sucks in the water from the boiler, and then ejects it onto your coffee. The heaters are here, right? The temperature probe is also here. So we would have to calculate an offset, right, from the temperature here where the probe was reading in the boiler to where it came out onto the coffee bed. So we would calculate an offset. I think our offset then was 2 or 1.5 was what we set the temperature here so that we would get like 198 here. Right, there was that much of a difference, and so the idea is that we want 2 or 1.5. Right? So this PID controller would learn over time when to turn off. So you'd have the old school click on, click off, click on, click off. Right, the PID controller would kind of learn the curve, learn the swings of the boiler, so that it would turn off and on, off and on, off. And so eventually it still created a small sine wave of like off and ons, right? But it became so that instead of being on and off, on and off, it would be on, off, 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 on, off. You'd actually, on the La Marzocco linea, there's a lamp that went for the heater when it turns on. So after a while, the lamp would just be like tick, 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 and it would just glide at 2, 1.5. And we need that, and that's helpful because we're trying to make espresso, multiples of espresso over a day part. But if you're only making espresso once, turning on your machine and then you're turning it off, or you're not really making a lot of espresso, I don't know if it really will be to your benefit to go through the expense. It could be an exercise in just technical knowledge and just exploration, which is perfectly legitimate. But if you're looking for a true performance boost, I don't know if it really will, because I think if you just flush out your group head and get fresh water, it should bring you within a nice range, or the desired range for your brew temperature. Yes, you need to feel the grinds. Feel the grinds. Okay, let's go and do the other type of macchiato. Let me clean this milk pitcher out. Now, I don't want to dissuade you from enjoying the technical aspects of exploring coffee. Like if you want to put PID in your machine, by all means, go for it. It's kind of fun. It's kind of frustrating. It's kind of a challenge to figure out where to put all the leads and how to program the PID controller, which PID controller worked great. Like I tried a whole bunch of the cheaper ones, but really if you want to just do it and not have to muck with it too much, get the Fuji PX3. Don't buy anything else. Just buy that because there's no reason for anything else. Okay, let's go back here to our milk. I'm going to put our milk in. This time I'm going to put a little bit more milk just so we can have a little bit more fun. Fun with frothing. And then let's go to our portafilter. A little bit dirty, so we're just going to clean it up. Oh, let me zoom back out a little bit so you can see more of what I'm doing. Beautiful, beautiful. Cleaned out that portafilter. Let's grind some more coffee. I need to refill our grinder soon. Okay, there we go. We got some coffee in here. Just gonna, this time it dosed fairly evenly, so that's a nice thing. Now you may notice that I'm not using the same tamper. I'm actually using my old school tamper. This is the original Reg Barber, whereas this is the 2010 Reg Barber. I don't have any modern era Reg Barbers, I guess. Okay, so we're going to pull this shot. I'm going to see if there's any difference as well from with the tamping style. Ooh, a little bit slow coming out. Come on, baby. All right, good. Let's do a little bit of purging. Oh, we're almost done there. Let's stop that. Oh, gosh, that was kind of fast. Let's go back with some milk here. Again, let me pull that out of the way because... Ooh, I'm starting to get a feel for this, I think. Okay, always want to make sure you wipe and purge your wand after using it. It just makes it so much easier to clean up, right? Like it's not crusting on there. It's really the better way to go. Oops, let's go this way. Okay, let's this one. So now we've got our milk, a little bit frothy. Now this is more the Seattle style. Or what some people, what the Australians, these Australians, they're always trying to rename things. We give them the Americano, they want to call it long black. We give them like, cappuccino, they want to call it like flat white. Just infuriates. This one, they want to call piccolo latte. Enough. All right, so here we go. Now this is just, we're going to pour. And you can do, if you are very good, which I'm not, this is, what do we call it? We call this one robin in a nest. See the robin's the beak there? Robin in a nest. Very nice, very nice. Actually, this is where, when we started doing like latte art throwdowns back in like 2004 to 2005, I think it was, I was a person that like really pushed everyone to like, instead of latte art throwdown, let's do macchiato throwdown, because the macchiato, this is so difficult for you to pull a shot and get the right milk and pour a pattern in the macchiato. It's so small. It's such a difficult thing that if you can do it, you're really pretty darn good. This robin in a nest is probably an epic. Look at this. Good definition, good contrast here. Could be sharper on the edges, but good contrast. This is what we want to see. What do Australians call portafilters? I'm afraid to ask. Those guys are probably calling it something filter portas. I don't know. I'm scared to ask, Marco. I'm scared to ask. The crema on your shots looks amazing. Oh, thank you. Let's admire the crema a little bit longer. No, actually, I'm kind of surprised that it turned out so nicely. Which beans am I using? I'm using my beans. This is the Espresso 99 from Spro Coffee. This is the same espresso they're using at the food market in Colombia. So here's where the nice thing. So here's the difference, right? This reminds me, at the shop, at Spro, we don't actually use milk for this. We actually use half and half cream because the half and half gives it greater heft, gives it greater depth, gives it much more of a silky character to it. This is actually the only drink that we will use half and half cream or a heavier milk. And what is half and half cream? Half and half cream. So we have regular milk. Regular milk is about 3.5% milk fat in skim milk per volume. The skim milk, of course, is skim. 2% is 2%. And half is actually 10%. So the half and half gives you that extra fat, that 3 times more fat gives you extra silkiness, extra body, which I really like. And that's kind of missing in this drink. It's nice, but it's not the way that we do it at Spro. I just don't have any half and half here at the house. So it's nice though. It is nice. And this free range, high quality, fatty cream line, locally produced Jersey cow milk is like, it's nice. It's nice. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. Actually, we could probably use a little bit more milk. We've put a little bit more milk because we did a little bit. This is not allowed. Now we have a flat white, mini piccolo flat white. Can I buy the beans at the food market? You know what? We've been talking about that. We at the moment it is not available by the bag. It will be. We will have them by the bag. Actually, I gotta go talk to Chad about that. They were working on a bag design that we'll find out, but not at the moment. Not at the moment. But if you let me know that you'd like to get some, I can always bring an extra bag and have it waiting for you there next week when I just was there yesterday. So Peter says we called the Einspanner. I like that you're putting this on there because it gives me a chance to pretend that I can speak some kind of Germanic language. Einspanner. Although probably Anton's sitting there like, oh God, what is this guy doing? Please stop talking. Einspanner, the Vienna coffee. Okay, I'll let you know, Neil. I'll let you know when we go. When I go there, I'll have some for you. Oh, actually, that's even, I like it with the more milk. So that more milk, that extra milk after we drank a little bit, kind of approximates now the kind of creamy offset that the half and half would give. So this is, so it kind of blends together, but this is actually I really like this style of macchiato. This is the way that I like it. I'm not a big fan of just the dollop, the traditional Italian way. I prefer this. Although I don't even know how you would ask for this in Italy. They'd probably look at me and kick me out of the espresso shop, which is fine because I have to stand there anyway while I'm drinking my espresso. But so this is where the caramel macchiato originated. Now the caramel macchiato, I will tell you, when you come into a cafe, if you come into, I don't know about other cafes, you come into Spro and you ask for a macchiato, you just come in and you just say, hi, what can we do for you? I'd like to have a macchiato. The moment you say that, hopefully our demeanor is not changing. I mean, the idea is that our demeanor doesn't change. But the moment you say you want a macchiato, we are now profiling you. I'm actively, I think I've got it mastered to the point where my demeanor doesn't change. You won't see any kind of twitch in the eyes, but I am now profiling you. Are you the kind of person that when you ask for the macchiato, this is what you mean? Or when you ask for the macchiato, is this what you mean? And yes, I'm profiling. I'm looking at visual cues. Do you look like a fancy suburbanite or do you look kind of hipster? If you're kind of hipster, I'm going to presume that you like this. If you're kind of fancy suburbanite, I will presume that maybe you might be asking for this. And then I'll inquire further. I'll be more like, well, would you like because here's the thing. So I know that sounds terrible, but really the other side of it is that, you go to some coffee places, and they're going to query you more, and they're going to give you a lot of judgment. Like for me, there's no judgment. Like we just want to know that when you say macchiato, we just want to know what you mean. Like what is in your mind? Because if you're thinking this and I deliver you this, you're going to be like, what the hell is that, right? And then if you're thinking this and I deliver you this, you'll be like, what the hell is that, right? I didn't come to Starbucks, did I? But conversely, we don't want people that are only used to Starbucks to also feel, put out or separated, right? We want to well. So while we are profiling you, we're profiling you because we want to give you the proper level of hospitality. So, because on our menu, you see macchiato, and it only is this. This is all that it means. It means nothing else. There is no caramel macchiato on our menu. So we'll be like, have you had a macchiato here before? Have you had the macchiato here with us before? Is it one of the quick way I might put it? And but it's my first time here. It's like, are you thinking about like the caramel macchiato? And they're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it's. Then it's like, well, we actually have something called the vanilla. We have a vanilla latte that's going to be very similar. It just doesn't have the whipped cream and the caramel syrup, but it does have the milk and coffee and vanilla syrup that makes the body of the caramel macchiato. And a lot of times, okay, that'd be great. Otherwise, it's just like, oh yeah, we've had that. We love the macchiato here. Then we know that you want this one, right? So it's a way to like profile you and query you without condescending upon you, right? We don't want that condescension. Like I hate that condescension. I hate the pretentiousness that comes along with a lot of these coffee people. Like I would tell my staff, it's like, because you meet these baristas and they're like, well, I know so much more about coffee than the customer. I was like, yeah, dude, no duh. You should know more about the coffee than your guest, because you know what? You're the professional in this situation. They're just the customer. Why knowing more than the guest is such a great achievement that you need to be lauded for it? I don't understand. Like that seems to be the baseline. Like the fact that you know more than the guest coming in should be the absolute baseline where you start. Like this is the minimum expectation, not like some lofty I should be exalted from on high. Anyway, these are the issues that I have within our own industry. Peter says, we've got a coffee called the Magic, similar to the Piccolo, but done with a double ristretto. Ooh, that sounds good. So double ristretto and then steamed milk. Is that correct? That sounds lovely. That sounds lovely. Naomi says, I've been drinking 12-ounce lattes for years, bought new 7-ounce cups and making my latte in those and like it much better. Is it now not a latte? No, I don't think so. I don't think it is. I don't think that it is not a latte. I think that it still is a latte, because what is really a latte? A latte, I think, is just a preponderance of milk over your espresso, right? We have espresso, then we have traditional macchiato, which is a little bit of dollop that we've seen. We have the Seattle style macchiato, which is steamed milk. Then we move up to the rule of thirds, cappuccino, 2-2-2. Anything above this, anything that goes beyond equivalent amounts is what I would consider to be latte. So if it's 7 ounces, if it's 10 ounces, if it's 12 ounces, if it's 20, if it's 32 ounces, it's still latte. Because now you go from greater quantities of espresso to milk to equivalent quantities of espresso and milk to a preponderance of milk to espresso. This is really just a moment for me to say preponderance. Preponderance. Pretend that I got 1,600 on my SATs. But yeah, I think 7 ounce, perfectly fine, perfectly fabulous. And the important thing is, like, are you enjoying? I always think it goes back to, are you enjoying the coffee you're drinking? That's really the only criteria that I think about. Is like, do you enjoy it? Do I enjoy it? Does the guest enjoy it? Does the person I'm serving enjoying the coffee? Because if they don't, then we're failing. We're failing miserably in like what we're doing. It's like, And from the professional standpoint, from my professional standpoint, it has to be a holistic thing. It's not just, is the coffee great? Hopefully the coffee is great, right? But is the experience great? Because I can make great coffee, but if I act like a jerk off to you, you're not going to have a good time. You're going to think, well, that guy was a jerk. And I'm not going to come back. Or those people are jerks, and they're going to tell their friends that this place sucks. And it's like, because they didn't enjoy themselves. They didn't have a nice time. They didn't feel welcome. They didn't have something. And we don't want that. We want people to be very welcome. We want people to feel that they had a great time. Like I said in the past, I try to teach my staff that the basic framework that I use is we want that person to be stoked that they were here today. However we can do that, that's really kind of our goal. And Peter says you can actually profile a person by what they drink, and we do, when we do. We may not, a lot of times, especially before you get to, especially for the guest that comes in somewhat regularly, that we may not have a very deep rapport with. Like, there's always people that come to your shop and you have a deeper rapport with them. They want to talk, they want to joke, they want to do whatever, they want to hang out for hours on end. And those people you get to know pretty well. Like, you get to know who they are, what their names are, what their lives are about, what happens to them in the world. And then you have these other guests that come in and they're really nice people. They're perfectly fine. They come in quite regularly, but they're not the ones that hang out. They're just the ones that come in. I'd like to have my coffee. I'd like to get a cappuccino. I'd like to have a, caramel macchiato, whatever they want to have. And you know them by that order. And that's how you get to know them. You know them like, okay, this guy, okay, so here's a guy, cappuccino and a croissant every day. Dun, 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 dun. So he doesn't say too much. He just goes, like, one guy comes in, I think of right away, Americano. He comes in, gets Americano. He's very successful, looks like, but he just gets an Americano and goes. I was like, nice to see you again. Hope you have a great day. So yeah, I think we do, everyone gets profiled. And yeah, everyone gets profiled. Everyone does get profiled. But not in a discriminatory, well, actually, I guess it's always discriminatory, right? You're always going to discriminate against those who are more difficult or who give more problems. He says, got it, makes sense. And why lattes are different. Yeah, there's always differences in lattes. Like, I remember when I first started, I was really this is the problem. When you first start in a pursuit, you learn a little bit and then you start to think in terms of ultimatums. Like, just a little bit to be dangerous and to be a jerk about it, right? Like, I remember very, very early on, like the first year or two of my career, I was like, I'll go to places, they don't have cortados here. Who are these people? These people suck. This place sucks. Starbucks sucks. There's no cortados. They don't even know what they're talking about. How about a lungo? You don't know that either? Oh, forget it then. Silly. It's silliness. But you get a little bit of knowledge. You want to flex it a little bit. So it happens. It happens to everyone, I think. And Peter says, I'm the dollar discount. Oh, so you're the guy that you're the guy who walks in and everyone's kind of like, oh, Peter, good to see you again today. How are you doing? How's the switch? Okay, good. All right. Dollar latte. All right. Thank you. Have a good day. Malky says, I'm very much in agreement with your approach. I can't wait to visit Nuspro. Yeah, whenever it opens. Well, someday, one day, who knows when. I keep playing phone tag with one of my inspectors because I'm doing something when he calls and I can't answer the phone or he's away. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really taking a long time. The buy two, get one free. Gotcha. After switching to smaller cups at home, I can't order a latte at Starbucks anymore. It tastes like milk. Oh, yeah. That's one thing that happens when you start to. That's one of the difficulties. Like I've noticed, like when we have guests that come to us at Spro, over time, like our approach is also like if you come in. This is what I teach to my staff: is that when we want you as the barista to learn as much as possible as we can teach you about the coffee, about the technique, about everything on our menu. But I don't want you to tell our customers about that stuff, right? Like if you walk in, and your first time, you're like, hi, can I get a coffee? If you just ask, can I get a coffee, like a brewed coffee? That's it. We don't even need to ask you. You go to some place, they want to query you. They want to ask you, 50 questions about what you like, what you don't like. What do you want geisha? Do you want this? No, I don't think people want geisha. We got a basic coffee. We got a basic coffee ready for you at all times. If you come and you're like, I would like to have a coffee. Here's your coffee. Have a great day. Easy. Because especially at the old Spro, the Hamden Spro, it was very intentionally designed to be very different than other cafes of its era, right? It was very austere, very kind of stark in some ways, very sciencey, laboratory style in some ways. So in many respects, very intimidating. So we wanted to balance that intimidation factor with warm hospitality, right? We want to be like, hey, how are you today? What can I do for you? I would like a coffee. Here's a coffee for you. Thank you. Have a great day. We don't have to ask too many questions. And I don't want people to ask, because I believe that so let's say that you come in the first time and let's presume that you enjoy the coffee. And you're like, oh, that's good. I'm going to go back. And it may take you a week to come back. You may come back tomorrow. You may come back in the afternoon. You may not come back for 6 months, but if you come back, if we've done a nice enough job, you'll come back and you'll have another coffee and you may enjoy it again. Hopefully you'll enjoy it again. Maybe you'll try something different. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll just have the same coffee again. And hopefully you'll find further enjoyment in that. Again, I would like to have a coffee. Here you are. Have a great day. Not too much rigmarole, not too much talking, not too much whatever. Because my belief is at some point, and you as a guest may never reach this point, and that's perfectly fine. You come in, you start coming in more regularly, and you enjoy the coffee, and you never ask questions. Perfect. You've enjoyed the coffee. Number one goal is satisfied, right? We have accomplished what we want to do, is to make you happy. But let's say you're the kind of guest that, like, after a while you've come in for however many times, and you're kind of curious. Suddenly you're now curious, but like, why is this different? Like, why is it now that I go to Starbucks or other coffee places and I don't enjoy the coffee as much? And then you may come in and be like, hey, I've been going to these other places. I don't really enjoy it. What's the deal with your stuff here? And then at that moment is when on my side of the counter, we need to be ready for that moment. When you, the guest, are like, I'm interested to know more. Now we can tell you more. And now if you really want us to like drop a boatload of information on you, we can. But until you reach that point, it's not like, you know how it is as you're in your experience, you've gone to places, and sure that not even, it doesn't have to be coffee, it could be anything. That person that's helping you is very enthusiastic about whatever it is that they're selling. And they want to go on and on and on. And you're just like, I just want to buy this, I just want to buy this tool and go home and work on it. Like, I don't need the whole history of the world behind it, right? So I think there has to be a moment when the guest has to be ready to receive, and we need to be ready to share our knowledge, right? That's my whole thinking on coffee and service. Peter says, if you get a customer that asks you how the beans were washed and grown at what altitude, we kick him out. Actually, the ones I'm going to kick out are the ones that might, and I've never had this, don't get me wrong, I've never had this. But I always thought that I'm going to kick the person out that sits there and pulls out, what is it called? The TDS meter, and starts to measure the TDS and be like, you only have 17.5% TDS. Get out right away. You're not enjoying coffee anymore. If you want to measure our TDS, take the cup home. Measure it at home. This way you can, do all your tests in proper controlled environments, because you just can't sit there with the blue TDS meter and drop the drops on it, and that number will tell you something truly significant. You have to go through the whole protocol. And I don't do that because the whole protocol is, I'm just like, I don't care enough about trying to measure TDS to that point. Here's the TDS measurement that I like. That's it. That's all you need. Because here's the thing. Like, I have the TDS meter. I almost never use it, because this is the ultimate test right here. Because you, as the guest, are not using a TDS meter to enjoy your coffee. You're using your sensory perceptions to enjoy your coffee or to not enjoy the coffee. That's it. I don't know why we put so much effort into all this other stuff when this is all that matters. That drinking of the coffee by the guest. And it's really simple. It's either we succeeded as baristas or we failed. In many respects, the cup is pure. Ooh, I like that. The cup is pure. I should put that on a t-shirt. The cup is pure. I've been thinking, what, coffee as hedonism and the cup is pure. The cup is pure. I got to remember that now. Let me write this on my notes here. Let me make a new note section here. The cup is pure. Nice. All right. All right, that's enough babbling. Look, we're past an hour again. I have to go and pick up a router table today. I found a guy that here in Baltimore that is selling a router table with this incredible like fence system. And I know if you're not into woodworking, it probably means absolutely nothing, but it's kind of like the La Marzocco of fences. And the guy's selling it, like I couldn't believe the price he's asking. I was like, what? It's like, and it's fully blown, right? It's like you're getting a fully blown like La Marzocco Strata for like ridiculously cheap price. I'm like, what? How is that possible? It's like, really? So I've been on the phone with him for like the last week and a half. I'm like, when are you available? He's like, I'm not available this week. Oh, good. I'm like, dude, when are you be available? Because time is a ticking. I need to get that. So finally, I'm going to pick it up. All right. Then that's it could be for today. We're back again tomorrow with more coffee Q&A here on the Ono Coffee channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Great to see all of you. Back again soon with more. If you have ideas about what you'd like to see or what we should talk about, like this Einspanner, let me know. We'll do about it. I got to remember this Einspanner. Mom, good to see you, Peter, Naomi, Anton, everyone good. And those of you who are watching after the fact, good to see you as well. Hope you have a wonderful day and see you next time.